I have made kind of a mistake in explaining how I've gone through this for 20 years. It's actually been closer to 40. If I can look back on my childhood, I was always a little off cue. And the same thing was happening in my dreams when I crossed over for the first time when I was 18. They became nightmares. And if you mess up in a nightmare, you get attacked and you have to fight and you get mutilated and tortured. And it's not very fun. But in the past 5 years in sobriety, my dreams have changed. And I don't think that's really just about alcohol. I think it's much deeper than just, it's a lot deeper. I'm just going to tell you. And I think that my videos could be watched in any order and people might get the gist of what I'm talking about. I'm hoping that with the realm that I see that watches Netflix all the time, that we've grown up with movies, we have all these entertaining things that we do about the future and about spirituality and realities, and if we can make it up, then I believe that it must be happening somewhere, and so I think that my series could be watched in any order, and possibly you could catch on to the fact that I'm off cue. And that would be like, since childhood, I would walk into a room or a scene and I would be the one saying the wrong thing, or in a conversation, I'd always be pointed out as the one saying the wrong thing, and so I had to learn people. I probably had to learn people in such intrinsic ways just to fit in, and I mean, like, super intrinsic. But by the time I was 15, I remember trying to be a cheerleader, and it would be like the whole crowd would be cheering, and then all of a sudden I'd hear, "Miranda, why are you off? Why are you being insecure?" And it was like the whole room could hear, like it was completely silent, like I just stepped up in front of the crowd completely naked and quirky, and I'm like, no, I wasn't feeling that way. I was just trying to be a cheerleader here, and I was doing just fine. And I really did notice it a lot in high school, very much, that I was just like so off, and like no matter how hard I tried, there would be a lot of times that I'd be just fine, and then I'd be completely off. And when you start seeing those as like clicking scenes of in and out of rooms, and when you become an adult and your dreams are about walking through mansions full of rooms and taking tests and having to pass these tests, and most recently, I mean, it's to the point where they're like tricking me and just every which way but Sunday I'm doing something wrong until I am doing it right, and they're like, I'm in this massive mansion and it's totally freaky. I got my boys with me, I'm protecting them, and learning to slay in the realm, basically. And someone just walks up to me and looks me in the eyes and says, "I check." And instead of, just in that moment, I just knew, just look him in the eye, turn around and walk around. I don't have to do anything in this. I check. And so, recently, I'm talking like 40 years in the desert, man, like the wilderness, almost 40 years, and like, we're about to hit a jackpot. We know it. We're not afraid. I'm not afraid to be on social media talking about hitting some jackpot by the time we're 40 with all this shit going on in our lives. The end is the beginning is the end, right? So I'm looking for someone in the spirit, and talked a little bit about that before. And I think it's slightly romantic that felony stalking led me to spiritually be connected to to a dead man. And the connection was always there, and that's why I'm not afraid, is because I know these connections are set since the dawn of time, since God breathed life into a zygote named Adam and Eve, and they were one soul, and they were split, and that made all of us. And so we all have those connections, and whether everybody can feel it or not, that would be up to a movie. And this is my movie idea. I was really trying to write a whole book, and ended up on Facebook and talking way too much instead of writing a book. And I think there's lots of books, and I think that it doesn't really matter what I do at this point. I want to say the crossover is soon, and I want to believe for that. I'm not really sticking my neck out by saying that. I'm just saying the things that a lot of other people say about the end of the world, and it doesn't really end, it just evolves and becomes paradise on earth again. And yes, I was a Jehovah's Witness until I was 6, and maybe I'm a little programmed to think of paradise on earth, but it's a nice dream to have anyway. It's a nice thing to believe in Jesus. It's a nice thing to believe in God. And who would ever not see that? Would not have seen my mind. Nobody can see your mind. Anyway, certainly I get told I don't make sense a lot, and I'm like, I'm freaking speaking English. Get laughed at, like, that's not a big deal anymore. Like, you want to laugh, not a big deal. I've been laughed at my whole life, and it's like, kind of on cue that I would be the one to say the off thing, and I kind of figured that out. And I took alcohol out of the equation for about 5 years, a couple slips, but recently tested the theory of what it does to me, and it doesn't do the same thing. Not at all. It's a worthless substance to me. It's like, whatever, like, that's so great. No, what's so great is I get so high that I think everyone in the world is in accord with me. And I get so low that I think I'm the most evil, worthless whore, taking on the sin of the earth, and everybody in the world is against me. Those aren't dreams. Those are waking states, where everyone in the world is against me. And if you felt all that, then you might just come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter that I'm sharing this. It really doesn't matter one bit. Does it matter one bit what you share on social media? Because I ain't keeping this a therapy.